Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Thursday afternoon. The Oregon Duck commitment sweatshirt comes back on, and this one's a monster. Five-star edge rusher Anthony Tank Jones committing to the Oregon Ducks. Now, a couple of things that jump out to me right away. Number one, big boy recruiting win on the trail here, going down into the state of Alabama for the second consecutive year, landing the number one player from the state as they landed Naheem Offord last class. You beat out a plethora of SEC programs. I mean, these are, when I look at Oregon and I look at the goal of Oregon for the next 5 years is getting over the hump, winning a national championship. These are the kind of recruitment battles that, to me, get you over the hump. Go look at a team like Ohio State last year or Michigan in 2023. What do all those teams have in common? Go back to the Georgia teams of the early 2020s. They all have the same thing in common, like elite defensive line play, high-end NFL draft upside guys. Well, that's what Anthony Tank Jones brings to the Oregon Ducks. You can't find many of these football players in the portal. If you want to be dominant along the line of scrimmage on the defensive line, you got to get these kids out of the high school ranks and just look at the bodies that Oregon is stacking in this room. Going back to guys like Mateo and Tatum, Blake Purchase, Elijah Rushing, Aiden Breland, Jericho Johnson, you can tell that Dan Lanning knows the recipe. He worked under Kirby Smart as Kirby Smart got Georgia to that national championship level. He knows what it takes. Takes these kind of football players. So that's the thing that jumps off to me right off the bat. Number two, the prospect box checker. I mean, what I mean by that is, hey, the athletic profile you absolutely love. 6'3 and a half, 240-pound state champ in the discus. And then you take a look at the on-field production. You take a look at the film Friday night and say, yeah, he backs it up with monster production at the high school ranks. Over the last 2 years, 200 plus tackles with 30 plus sacks at the high school ranks. Hey, got all the athleticism that you want in a football player, has also shown that he can translate it to being a good football player. As much as that seems like you see that a lot, you really don't. Go look at a guy like Brandon Arrington, one of the bigger, so you might say misses for Oregon in 2026. As much as I love Brandon Arrington, the athletic profile was freaky. The length, the track and field times wasn't necessarily there as a football player yet. I look at Anthony Tank Jones and say, hey, we got the athletic profile that we like, but we also back it up as a football player as well. Big fan of the prospect at a premium position, beating out teams that you're going to have to beat in the college football playoffs to win national championships. This is what you love to see. If you're an Oregon Duck fan on the recruiting trail, you're going to get a little bit more into Anthony Tank Jones, but we got to preview what could be a monster weekend for the Oregon Ducks on the trail. Before we get into it, as always, I do want to say thank you to you guys and to the Oregon fans, especially the Oregon fans who've been rocking with the boys really for the last couple of years. Man, it's been so fun talking this team from a talent acquisition standpoint, breaking down commitments. And although maybe a little bit of a roller coaster for Oregon this summer, we're looking at an Oregon class in 2026 for as much as they quote unquote struggled during this summer. There's a very good chance we're kicking off the 2025 year with Oregon sitting as a top 5 class in the country. I think that tells you how Dan Lanning has this program running. Where we think it's a down year on the trail, they're probably still going to sign a top 5 class in the country. To the Oregon fans who've been rocking with the boys throughout the process, appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into Anthony Jones. Now, let's start with the athletic profile. This kid, when you describe him as a football player, it starts with horsepower. And you probably point to the state championship and the throwing metrics. That is very clearly translated to him as a football player. The power that this kid has starting in the lower body and coming out in the hands, it's real. It's legit. Kind of like a lot of the edge rushers that Oregon has in the room right now. You look at a guy like Mateo Yu. How does Mateo Yu dominate in the Big Ten? Because he's one of the more devastatingly powerful edge defenders at the point of attack. You're going to say the same thing for a guy like Anthony Tank Jones, as he's probably not going to get as big as Mateo just because Mateo's a little bit wider and a little bit taller. They're going to win in very similar ways. And that is, I'm going to put my hands on these tackles and I'm going to dominate them at the point of attack. I'm going to be dang good in the run game and I'm going to walk tackles right into the lap of the quarterback. Horsepower. That's the name of the game. And that's another thing that at least I appreciate the most about what Oregon is doing. The guys that they are compiling in the edge room, they're not only really good pass rushers. I mean, you look at a guy like Tatum and you look at a guy like Mateo, with two of the better pass rushers that you see in the country going into 2025, but they're also very good against the run. And if you want to maximize your pass rush, it starts at stopping the run on first and second down, setting up those third and long pass rush situations. Anthony Take Jones, to me, is going to provide that to Oregon. I mean, you turn on the film and we don't, like, I am breaking any news in terms of how good this kid is, but you see it real quick. He can win in a lot of different ways. I mean, one, just a devastating swim move right here and really powerful hands. But you continue to work through it, and we'll see some plays where he puts it on full display. What does in the run game? I mean, look at that. You talk about power at the point of attack. You run this one back. I mean, this is what we're talking about. A tackle trying to reach him. We're benching him out, putting him right on his face, getting off the tackle and being supportive in the run game. That's something that's made Oregon really good, is how good, and you see the athleticism here as an inline tight end getting loose down the field. I mean, he can move in space as well. Really powerful, really good athlete. That's what you're looking for as you're trying to build your edge rushing room, especially in the Big Ten conference. Like, hey, you want to win the Big Ten, you got to go through a team like Michigan. You got to go through a team like Iowa, some teams that are going to want to run some 12 personnel and run the football at you. We can't just have pass rushers we can't have edge defenders, I should say, who are only good pass rushers. We need these guys to be good against the run, and Anthony Jones is certainly that dude. Where does Oregon go from here? You got two names to monitor. Number one, probably talk about, let's stick on the defensive line real quick and talk about Deuce Geralds, who is one of my favorite prospects in the 2026 cycle. It was thought to be a Michigan-Oregon battle. Now it sounds like it's turning into an Oregon-LSU battle. I think Oregon is still the team to beat for Deuce Geralds. Really unique interior defensive lineman, 6'2", 275. Kind of reminds me like a Brandon Dorlus. A guy that I think he's athletic enough to play out on the edge at sometimes, but I think he's strong enough to play the three tech. And when he's on the inside, there are just not a lot of interior offensive linemen that can deal with the athleticism that Deuce Geralds brings to the table. And what I love the most about Deuce is, maybe a little bit of a tweener. Well, Oregon has showed you with guys like Brandon Dorlus, with guys like Jordan Burch, hey, we know how to maximize a football player like you. And Deuce Gerald's probably not going to work in every defense that you see across the country, but specifically for Oregon, like how well they did with a guy like Brandon Dorlus and Jordan Burch, to me, it seems like a perfect fit. Another one of those SEC versus Oregon battles where you look at and say, these are the kind of guys that get you over the hump. And then you look at Davon Benjamin, who I think is the most important one to monitor over the weekend. Oregon doesn't have a cornerback locked in. They are desperately looking for one. Davon Benjamin, I think he could play all five positions in the back end. Safety, nickel, boundary, cornerback. I think Oregon likes him as a cornerback, and I don't blame him. Elite man coverage ability, elite ball skills, very, very good instincts. Might not be as long and as fast as a player like Brandon Arrington, but as a pure football player at Oaks Christian, there are not many better pure football players in the entire class than Davon Benjamin. He's not the freaky 6'2", 10'5" in the 100-meter dash kind of guy, but in terms of a pure football player, he's got everything you want. And it's not like the athletic profile is bad. I mean, he's 6 foot, runs 10.9 in the 100-meter dash. He's checking boxes as an athletic profile guy, but as a pure football player, in my opinion, doesn't get much better than Davon Benjamin in the 2026 cycle. Oregon goes 2 for 2 on the weekend. And you're looking at a top 5 class in the country. Ain't going to be the biggest class, but it's going to be hyper talented for Oregon. We'll see how it turns out. Really good start to the weekend, getting that ball rolling. And I would say to Oregon fans, look, we all know what it looks like when Oregon's rolling on the trail. And maybe that's what we're going to see over the next 72 hours. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.